So we are now being put in a very interesting situation. And I want to explain why this is. Because we might have to decide, do we experience additional bank runs or do we just live with prolonged high inflation? That might be the problem that we need to address now. But again, what do we do? Well, here's what I can tell you. Tomorrow morning, we will have the new CPI report. It is going to come out, and expectations are that inflation is going to be at 6%. We are currently sitting at 6.4%, so that is a decent drop. That is good news. Now, the only reason why we are even seeing a decrease in inflation or disinflation is because the Federal Reserve is stepping in and raising rates. Outside of that, there's really no reason why we are seeing disinflation. Now, interest rates went from being at 0% to now they're sitting at 4.5 to 4.75%. That is a major swing, and that is definitely slowing down our economy. However, there's still a long ways to go. But why does all this matter? Well, why does it matter in order to tackle inflation? Well, that's where things get very tricky, and how do we move forward? Well, I'm going to address that in just a second. All I ask, again, spend 2 seconds, go ahead and hit that like button, and also click that subscribe button so you never miss an update. But here's what I can tell you. The entire world is fighting inflation, not just the United States. And we've been fighting inflation for more than a year. Now, even though inflation has been coming down, which is good news, in some countries, it's actually ticking back up. That is a problem. And that is creating another massive problem. Now, here's what is happening. And again, just to give you an idea, what if this happens here in the United States? Well, here's what's happening. We are seeing inflation in certain industries. We are seeing inflation in food, right? Energy. We are seeing some of these things ticking back up. Again, that's a problem. And right now, the markets are panicked as to where do things go from here? We've already seen 3 banks fall apart in a very short amount of time. And we saw today, just to give you an idea, the Credit Suisse's shares hit new lows. Investors are just scared because default swaps hit a new record. Right? The cost to insure bonds are now the highest on record, all because of the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank. But again, it doesn't stop there. And I said this could happen. I've talked about this in the past. I said this could happen, and it looks like it will. Here's what's going on. According to multiple reports, the Federal Reserve has to be extremely cautious with how much they decide to fight inflation. Because if they continue to raise interest rates, it is going to put more banks under pressure, and more pressure could mean more banks collapse. That's a problem. Now, not only is the banking situation a problem here in the United States, this has actually sparked fears about broader financial instability here in the US and also abroad. Again, broader financial instability, we don't need another 2008 crisis. We don't need that. But according to some financial experts, they are preparing for that. And this is extremely important. Because if there are fears of more banks collapsing, then the Federal Reserve will need to be extremely careful with raising rates even more. As a result, we may be stuck with 6% inflation for the foreseeable future. Because like I just said, what is the one thing that is contributing to disinflation? It's the rising interest rates. That's what's causing it. We are not out there spending more money. Businesses are not reinvesting, right? They're not pulling out loans to go reinvest and put more money into research and development and all these things. They just can't do it. Not with interest rates where they're currently at. Now, if we are stuck with 6% inflation, and again, this is going to come down to tomorrow, are we going to see disinflation and we're going to go from 6.4 down to 6? That's the expectation. If we come in at 6.5, I guarantee you the markets are going to be spooked. It is going to be a rough day, potentially just a rough week. Now, here's what we know. The next 2 meetings will be extremely important for the Federal Reserve. Okay, the FOMC meetings will be on March 21st and 22nd, and May 2nd and 3rd. We will also have 2 CPI reports by then. One is coming out tomorrow on March 14th. The other one will come out in April. But again, this could completely change the way that the Fed fights inflation. Because if we see inflation come down to 6%, then we could actually see the Fed take their foot off the gas and let rates just sit for a while. Now, what would that do? Well, we would be stuck with higher interest rates, right? Or we'd be stuck with interest rates where they're currently at. They're not going to go up. But at the same time, we could actually see if the interest rates, the hikes haven't been enough, we could see inflation come down and slowly come back up. Remember, I just said there are other countries that are experiencing that uptick. That's not what we need here in the United States. Even economists at Goldman Sachs, they said this. One person said that they no longer expect the Fed to deliver a rate hike with considerable uncertainty about the path beyond March. So we'll see what happens there. And even John Fagan, he was the director of the U.S. Treasury's markets room, like 5 years ago. He said, and I quote, "Now they're in a position where if they hike a 0.5 percentage point at the next meeting, that's gasoline on the fire." That's not good. That's not what we need. Now, and I bring all this up because inflation is hurting the American people. It's taking our hard-earned paychecks. It's causing families to overspend on food and on electricity, right? Utilities, retail. What you want to go on vacation? Well, you're gonna have to overspend, and it's causing an increase in poverty. All this is happening when all the stimulus money is going away. People are spending it. All this additional relief is stopping. For example, the additional SNAP benefits, the $95 per month, it's gone. Nobody's getting any more. Again, the decisions from the Fed are going to dictate where we go from here. We could see more bank collapses. We could see higher inflation. Or, and let's hope not, but we could also see both. That is the problem. So, what do we do now? How do we get out of this? Well, here's the problem. It's not us. It's not on us. It will be on the Federal Reserve. It will be on the Treasury. They're the ones that have to make the decisions. The Federal Reserve will decide, do they continue to raise rates? If they do, how much? We will see from the Treasury what they decide to do. We still have a debt ceiling that we have to negotiate. We still have and again, this isn't a big deal, but we do have the fiscal year 2024 federal budget that has to be passed by September. Again, we still have a long ways away from there, but as far as the debt ceiling, we have to address that by potentially June or July. So that's coming up much sooner. We're also fighting a fight with Republicans and Democrats to decide, are we going to see a deficit reduction? If we do, what's going to get cut? Are we going to increase taxes? A lot of questions here. So all I can tell you is these questions need to be answered, and hopefully we'll have the answers very soon. As soon as we do, I promise I will fill you in on all the latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.